Okay, good evening and welcome. I was trying to play Mr. Davis's ad for his next Saturday's podcast, and I apparently couldn't find it, and so I'm coming on right now. I'm Bob Pace, and welcome. You've reached live podcast, Fight CPS, and Stop Taking Our Children. And it's CPS is an awful thing that you're involved in. I call CPS the Child Protection System. It's a government agency of social services that's mandated by Congress to protect our children from neglect and abuse. It's also further supposed to assist families in the need of food, shelter, clothing, transportation, education, medical, and a job. That's what they're supposed to do. And then if they need to take apart your family, need to break it up and take your children because they're in imminent danger, they're supposed to do what's called family reunification. And that is reuniting the family with the children. Right now, studies have shown that the best parents are the biological parents. So I call this particular agency the Child Protection System because every state will have a different name. In California, it's the Child Protection Services, CPS, similar to the Child Protection System. In Arizona, it's Department of Children's Services. In Kentucky, it's the Cabinet. And so, anyway, I want to again give you a warm welcome to this live podcast. Now, there's several ways you can interact with this podcast. Hopefully, some of you this morning invited you tonight because you had some stories you didn't finish. And I also want to know how the Zoom meeting went today at Saturday at 10 o'clock. Did you get anything out of that? So I'd love some feedback. Now, one of the first things that you've accomplished or coming into this room is that you now can listen, take notes, and also show emojis. I'm trying to get my screen to settle down right now. It's a little bit of lag there because it shows sometimes my mouth not keeping up with my voice. Anyway, you found this podcast on Facebook, Fighting CPS with Bob Pace. There are 8 rooms that connect you to this podcast live. The first one is Law Offices of Vincent W. Davis Associates. Then the reality series of CPS, the horror stories. Then there is the juvenile dependency. Then there is Mr. Davis's podcast, The Secret How to Fight CPS and Win. Then there is the Relatives Fight CPS. And then, of course, my room, Fighting CPS with Bob Pace. And then we have Fight CPS and Talk with Miss G. And then the YouTube has a room called the CPS Defense Strategy. So those all connect to the live stream. So anything you say in those rooms or say on YouTube is all transferred to my screen here. I'll see all your comments. Now, in those messages you see right now are going to be websites that connect you up with valuable information. So please write them down and look them up at your leisure. There'll be a total of 8 of them that'll come in. There's only 1 so far, but they dribble in. And sometimes when you guys do your comment, they come on top of each other. But anyway, there'll be some more that will come in. Now, as I said, you can show me emojis, which are like thumbs up, smiley faces, hearts. You can also send me stars if you appreciate this podcast. Also, down below, if you want to follow me, please check the button to join. And then if you want to be notified of when I'm live, check that button also. That is really, really, really good. So, as I say, there's not much to do in this room but listen and take notes. Now, there is a number posted at 888-888-6582. That's the law offices of Vincent W. Davis. There's where you can call in and make sure you say Bob Pace sent you. And you call in, and if you want to retain an attorney, including Mr. Davis, that's the number you would call. And they have all kinds of attorney for all kinds of law problems. You may have immigration problems, or you may have a workman's comp problem, or insurance claims, or accidents, or you may have a legal matter that needs to be addressed. You also have a divorce. All the laws Mr. Davis has covered. The one that you're in is called dependency law, family juvenile dependency law, and that is the um, law that deals with, are dealing with our children or protects our children and how CPS should act. Now, you're going to find that CPS may not be what they portray to be. Now, in my experience, I too was involved in CPS. It was a miserable nightmare. It was a miserable nightmare. At age 60, when I lost my job, I somehow got harassed by CPS for 5 years. Every week there'd be an allegation. And I did not know at the time that a layperson, which was my relatives, my in laws, my wife's mother and father, three sisters and brothers, were calling all the way from Ohio to California and saying that we weren't feeding our kids, weren't dressing them, weren't taking them to school, weren't taking care, we're not paying the utility bills. So every week I would meet with CPS and show them my backup and show my family's fine. And I even let them in my house at that time. And so I had a very unpleasant experience because after 5 years, they must have got angry and they wanted to retaliate. So they got a hold of the police, and the police had a detective find out and follow my pattern, and then followed me one day when I picked up my son from school and ordered me to my home to open it up to them. What I didn't know is I didn't know about the laws. You don't have to talk to police or social workers. I mean, if you are in a traffic violation, then you say nothing but the information he asks you, which is your name and your driver's license, and then you sign a traffic violation to appear before court. Now, if you did something wrong, they can arrest you, but you got to be careful because you're protected by your constitutional rights, that they cannot legally search you without a warrant. They can't search your car, and they can't even do some of the things they talk about. They will try. They will try. And if you're at home, don't open the door. You don't want them in your home. Also, too many people have been killed lately opening the door. And I'm talking about real cases. So you don't have to talk to them or social workers or surrender your children or do a house search. They have to be done by warrants. There's a whole procedure. You need to learn CPS. You need to learn the law. And that's why we got attorneys. That's why my attorney, Vincent Davis, sponsors this podcast, created this podcast. And many thanks go to him for what he does, because he gives a lot of his free time and help other people out there. He's a very experienced lawyer, 35 years in the business. He's been fighting CPS. He's also a trial attorney. And further, he is an expert in the family juvenile dependency law. That's the law that you're involved in. It's dependency, not criminal law. There's no jury trial, which I think there should be, and you are guilty until you're proven innocent. All the other laws, you're innocent until you're proven guilty. But sad is that when an allegation comes in, either from a layperson, which is like a family, a relative, a neighbor, whoever calls in, immediately CPS believes the fact's true, and within 24 hours will investigate your case. Now, if a professional calls in, they're trained and they usually are pretty right on when there's suspected abuse or neglect. Again, both parties, I don't think they should be able to call in and not sign their name or write a written statement, because too many times the layperson abuses the CPS system by using it to retaliate, to alienate. It's bad enough that CPS will traffic your children into foster care or alienate your children or steal your children. Alienation, stealing children, and trafficking children is against the law, but they do it very freely, and they don't care about your constitutional civil rights. Now, Mr. Davis is that kind of attorney. After your case is closed, he will sue them. He has done lawsuits in both federal and state courts, and he's won millions of dollars. So he's the real deal. And there's several ways that you can speak to him. And besides calling the office, I have a way that you can talk to him for 30 minutes for $60. At the below my screen, there is a ticket message that talks about getting Mr. Davis to book a discounted private Zoom consultation for 30 minutes, and it's only $60. All you have to do is go to the website, https:// Candely, CALENDLY.com/apps, APPTS, VWD /Bob Pace. And that'll take you to the site, and you use your credit card, you book the time he has available, and then you have a private Zoom consultation with him. And he'll speak to you for 30 minutes. And you got to think ahead what you want to ask him, because it's very valuable time. He charges hundreds of dollars, his normal rate there and stuff. So that's one way you can get him for a real nominal price. In fact, I can get you 2 free 15-minute sessions with Mr. Davis by being a guest on my podcast or calling in on my podcast. And the second way is to be a guest on my podcast. And I have a show producer. Her name is Grace. She's on right now, but she works behind the scenes. And I want to thank Grace. She helps me with my podcast. And so what you would do to be a guest on my podcast, all you have to do is to email her with one of my show times that you want to be on. Now, I'm on Monday through Sunday, 7 days a week, twice a day. I come on at 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time in the morning for 1 hour, and then I come on in the evening at 7 p.m. for 1 hour. That's twice a day, 14 shows. There is exceptions, and I'll let you know ahead of time. Right now, I think the only exceptions to my time would be Saturday and Sunday. On Saturday, I come on 2 hours early so Mr. Davis can do a live podcast, a Zoom meeting that you all are cordially invited. And tomorrow I'll have more information about that Saturday podcast. And on Sunday, I go to church. So I start my podcast 2 hours early so I can go to church. And that's at 8 o'clock. So Saturday, Sunday, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. The rest of the times are fine. I am in the midst of Friday Night Lights of football season, but there, as I know of, there's no game next week. I think it's a bye. It's a bye week, and they're in the playoffs. So the whole month of November on Friday nights, there will be 3 more playoffs. And then they have the state championships. And then that pretty much will end the football season. So anyway, I'll let you know as it gets on there. But you tell Faye in your email that I want to be on Bob's Wednesday show, his Sunday show, his Saturday show, on a morning or evening. That's all you have to tell her. Her email is grace@vincentwdavis.com. That's grace@vincentwdavis.com. And once you're on the show, guess what? You're eligible, after you talk on the show, for a 15-minute free session to talk to Vincent Davis. No charge. Faye will set that up. All we will need is your name, your email, and your phone number. And we'll set up that 15-minute session. We're trying to encourage people to be guests. I can take up to 9 of you at one time. There's a total of 10 guests, 10 windows. And being a guest is fun because you get to interact with me and the audience. You get to see the comments. You get to help out and share your case and help other people, because this room is all about helping each other. I want to help you all. CPS was terrible to me. I lost a daughter, a home, and I lost my credit, and it's very hard for me to find a job because of CPS. The child protection system is corrupt. There are pockets, I imagine, where it's good. I've talked to 3 social workers. One was in Maryland. She said that she was a clinical psychiatrist, trained and educated, and had 6 months of additional CPS training in Maryland. Well, that's one, but of over the 500 or 600 people I've talked to, they've said just the opposite. They said that they're very corrupt. They steal your children. In fact, your children are not in danger, and they'll take your children. Mine weren't in danger, and they were taken. They were stolen from me. It's really, really bad. Now, another way to interact with this podcast is that you may want to text me a message. You may want to text me a message and ask a question or make a comment. And I love to have that messages. All you have to do is state your first name and then the city or county that the case is in, and then you want to put the state. Now, I'm open worldwide, so I do have countries. Right now, I have 15 countries that have texted on my podcast or asked questions about CPS. I want to help everybody worldwide. It's a worldwide epidemic. CPS is hard. It's very corrupt. They do it purely for money. It's $1 trillion business. Trillion, not million, not billion, but trillions of dollars is made by CPS. The money frees slowly from the federal government to the state and down to the counties. There's no watchdog on the money, no accountability. There's no directors or supervisors, which there should be. There should be someone governing it. There's a director at the local level, and he's worthless or she's worthless. And then there is the state, and the ombudsperson or the civil rights coordinator is corrupt too. I know Kentucky is one of the most corrupt states. They have problems everywhere, including the police. The police are so bad in Kentucky. And I'm sorry to bad mouth it because my show is open. Any policeman likes to come and talk about how they do law enforcement and how they work with people, I really appreciate them. But lately, all I know is that they shoot people without asking questions first, point blank, and they're dead. You can't recover a life. And I know policemen have a hard job. I appreciate the job they're doing. But a lot of them have lousy people skills. And social workers are the bad ones too. In fact, if you're in CPS, it's like you're Alice in Wonderland. You fell in the garden, a rabbit hole, and you jump in and you meet the Cheshire Cat. And the Cheshire Cat sends you from one room to the other room. That's how it is in CPS. Your head will go spinning. They'll lie to you. They'll build you up. They'll corrupt. They'll make you sign things with promises they never keep. You got to be really careful. And as I say, you need that attorney. You need that attorney to things in there. Hold on one second. All right, I'm back. I had to talk to my son who just came home. I'm broadcasting from Southern California, from Surf City, USA. And I'm 3 blocks from the beach, and I do this out of my home. And I have a family still. I'm very fortunate and blessed to have my family. I'm a family man, and I have 6 children. And I really adore my family, and I want to do what's best for them. And I tell you, um, they're beautiful people, my family. I'm proud of what they accomplish and what they do and so forth. And I've been married for 42 years. Well, with 2 women not at the same time. My first marriage was 10 years. Unfortunately, it ended. And then my second marriage has been 32 years. And I love families. I love marriage. I love my children. I've tried to be the best father I can. I really have. And it's been hard. But together I have 6 children in my family. And one day I have a dining room table. My dream is to have my family of 8, including my wife, sit at the table and have Thanksgiving. But we're very blessed this year because someone's providing us a Thanksgiving meal again this year. And so, being a family man, I've learned a lot. I learned a lot of life skills. You see, when we're all born and brought into this world, we're not giving um, a manual about how to date or how to marry or how to even wash dishes or how to do simple things like checking account. They used to do all those life skills in high school. I think the life skills should be every year of your schooling, all 12 years. You should have life skills, and they should be No, presented maybe in an hour format or a half an hour format in elementary and middle school, and then high school, it should be an hour. And maybe continued into college. Maybe there should be life skills there because people need it. There has to be a life skill, how to deal with CPS. It's so corrupt. I really, anyway, we were talking about texting me messages, comments, and questions. And we're talking about my 15 countries. And so far, the countries are Bangladesh, New Delhi, India, and then I have um, the Middle East. I have Lebanon, who just recently came in, Saudi Arabia, and then I have South Africa. I have the continent of Africa. I have Liberia in the northwest part of Africa. I have Rwanda in the central east part of Africa near Lake Victoria. Then I have Mozambique on the east coast of Africa, opposite Madagascar Island. And then on the west coast of South Africa, I have the West Coast province of South Africa. Going up to Europe, I've had England, Scotland, Wales, part of the United Kingdom, and then Denmark and Sweden. Across the pond to North America, I've had the Canadian provinces. I've talked to 3 or 4 of them. And also, I've talked to all 50 states, including Washington, D.C. And I've even talked to Mexico, and then down south in South America, Grenada, east of Venezuela, north of Brazil on the east coast of South America. Then across the Pacific, I've talked to Australia. Australia, Sydney on the east coast is the Gold Coast. And with that said in mind, I've also talked to the South Coast and Melbourne in the state of Victoria. And then that's pretty much the 15 countries. And they've all texted me about questions, things. So I want to help everybody worldwide. I want to help everybody. Also, it's important when you text a message, you tell something about your case, such as what kind of family you have. Are you a husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend? Are you lovers? Are you maybe a partnership? And then your family. What are the ages and sexes of your children? And then are both parents involved with the children? Are you a single parent? Are the parents different for each child? Is there different biological parents? And so that's really important. And then I'd like to know the details of your neglect and abuse charges, your alleged charges. What happened there? And then how were your children taken and how were they taken? Were they in your home at the time? Did you surrender them? Did you drive down to the office and give them? Did they demand they enter in the home? Did they have a warrant? Was there violence and they broke in or something like that? So tell me that. And lastly, where you at on your case? Are you at the beginning, the middle, the end? You're at dependency court. You're at a safety plan meeting. Where are you at on your case? And that really helps me and helps everyone in the room understand your case, and we can help you. So that's texting. Now, I've talked about being a guest on my podcast. The last thing I have left is my phone number. Now, my phone number is area code 626-698-0990. And I got to make sure because it's a web-based phone number, meaning that they use Vonage is the application. And right now I'm checking to make sure that my phone is working. And apparently my phone had been turned off, but now my phone is turning on. And then I'm going to have to connect to the Wi-Fi because it's Wi-Fi based connected. But you can call in, and what will happen is that I'll put you on speakerphone, and you can talk about your case. The good thing about calling, it works the same way if you're my guest. You get eligible for a free consultation for 15 minutes with Vincent Davis. I'm trying to get people calling in and or being a guest on my podcast. So Vincent's helping me by offering his time, 15 minutes, private Zoom consultation about CPS. Yeah, turn my Wi-Fi. Okay, it's on, and now it's gonna have a hard time because my apartment's terrible with phone signals because it's like a block house, concrete block house. So I connected to my router now, and it shows I'm connected. So I'm connected. I'm live, and you can only call me during my show hours. If you call me before my show hours or after there, I can't answer the phone. I only answer during my show time. And it's 626-698-0990. I'll leave that up, as well as I'll leave the ticket running of getting Mr. Davis for 30 minutes for $60. And and the number on the show. So um yeah. Yeah, I cannot text, by the way. I can only text to my show producer. That's about it. Where texting is down for Vonage. It had been down for weeks with my number not working. I had to use it temporary. It was a miserable experience. But we're fully operational there except for texting. Except for texting. Now, I've talked about the four ways of interacting with this podcast. One way is being in this room. Second way is to uh, um, text a message, a comment, or a question. A third way is to be a guest on my podcast. And a fourth way is to do a phone call in. Now, phone call in and being a guest will you will get a free 15-minute session with Mr. Davis. And I cannot emphasize how good of an attorney he is. He was my attorney. He got my two boys back. So you can call the number that's on my screen if you want to retain him, and he'll talk about his retainer. He's in Arcadia, California. That's next to LA, Los Angeles. And he has cases in Los Angeles County, Orange County, which is my county, and then San Bernardino County, and up north in Northern California. He also has a case in Oklahoma, and he has cases in other states. So he's prepared to go to other states and practice law there. So he can work in any state there. The only thing you can be concerned yourself with is that he has per diem, meaning he has ground transportation, air transportation, and hotel and food expenses when he travels. And so those are in addition to his legal fees. Those legal fees are very nominal, and they're just the same whether he's doing it in Los Angeles County or in Pennsylvania, where it is. It's not the cost of legal that goes up when he travels, but it's the cost of the per diem and so forth. Now, um, right now, I are pretty much open to go different directions with this podcast. Sometimes I have my regular people that come to my podcast that like to talk. So, um, so um, I have two people that have been my regulars here, and one is from Kentucky, and and she is a single mom with a son that she's raising. Okay. All right. I'm trying to get a hold of Faye. She had some distressing news that she heard on, and I want you all to reach out and help out the people with the hurricane. Supposedly, the hurricane that came through that went straight up, the first hurricane that flooded all the way up to Virginia, to North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, Alabama, and Georgia, and parts of Florida. And the second one that went across Florida, they both did a lot of rainwater damage and people lost their homes. What is happening now is that CPS is taking the children from these families because they said they don't have a roof over their head. Instead of trying to help them, hold on one second. Hold on. Okay, I'm sorry, you guys, and some background noise. I'm just trying to take care of it. So, um, anyway, um, so she's from Richmond, Kentucky. As a child and as a teenager, she was in and out of CPS 5 different times. Regretfully, her mother turned out to be a failure. She still loves her mother, but she died. But she was too much into drugs in her own world. And so Faye did her best in and out of foster care. The only problem is she got abused, molested, raped. She got trafficking into sex as a teenager. And then she was tortured by walking barefooted on rocks, pointed rocks that her feet are so crumbled. So she went a terrible experience as a child. The sad part is she grew up and had 2 children. The only thing is, CPS will keep records on you. And they immediately took her children. She had a 3.5-month-old baby that was taken from her and put in foster care. She was given a choice, ultimatum. You can either keep your son, who at that time was 15 at the time, or keep your daughter. Her son has special needs, so she's going to choose her son because he needs someone to take care of him. He cannot, he's now 22 years old, I think, or 21. He can't drive, he can't date. He has to have his mother help him. So she's trying to get custody, and she's having a hard time because they're even getting a hard time with her custody. How can you be suitable to take care of one child and not the other? She is asking. And lately, she contacted the ombudsperson of the state and the civil rights coordinator, and they said, "Well, we have a new cabinet form. We'll review your case and get back to you." Well, they did review, but they did nothing but say the same old thing, that they're right in taking her daughter, and they're not right. She wants her daughter to know that she loves her. It's like my wife and I have a daughter that was ripped off to us by CPS. We want her to know that we love her and we still care about her and we want what's best from her. It's very hard as a parent to lose a child, especially when they're living. And my wife, every day, are so sad about our child. Our child was actually stolen by the CPS coordinator in retaliation, and it was a bad thing. Our CPS social worker lied on the stand when there was a examination by my attorney, Vincent Davis, that asked her, was my wife's sister and husband good parents, and they had any domestic violence? Well, she lied, as well as her sister and husband lied. Oh no, no domestic violence, not whatsoever. Well, Vincent Davis, who is an excellent attorney, I cannot speak highly of him, but he pulls out in his briefcase a folder that was a half-inch thick with 30 reports of domestic violence at their home. Not only domestic violence, physical domestic violence, where they were fighting each other and hurting each other. And so he started reading these reports. And the social worker broke down and cried and was so embarrassed because she lied. She committed what's called perjury. Anytime you commit perjury, you can be prosecuted. And if I had the money, I would pay Vincent to sue her because I could get a lot of money back. But if I hire Vincent to get my kids back, I had 3 of my kids taken from me, and one of them was taken from both those parents forever. It's so sad how they do things. The social worker knew the law that a child can ask for emancipation at age 12. Our daughter was 12. And so she said to us parents, "You'll never see your daughter." So what she did is she told our daughter, who is very gullible, to listen to the social worker. And she said, "You need to divorce your parents," which she did, emancipate. And she divorced her mom, her dad, her 2 brothers, her grandparents, both sets of grandparents, and all her aunts and uncles and cousins. And that's sad. But not only that, the social worker said you need to change your name completely. She got rid of her first name, middle name, and last name. They were beautiful. Her middle name was a beautiful name named after a beautiful place. And goes through a developing process, and a child is developed in the mother for 9 months. The mother has the child, and the daughter is not have us as the biological parents. That's wrong. And on top of that, she changed her name. She changed her name. And then Social Security card. And she lied to Social Security. She's getting additional benefits when she doesn't qualify. She got a fake social ID. Pretty much about the AIM, the American Indian movement, AIM, which stands for the American Indian Movement. And there were several tribes, reservations in that town of Prescott. And Billy Jack was a crusader for the Native American Indians there. Anyway, these social workers who worked in there worked for DCS, Department of Children's Services, which is the CPS. Any color pink is notably for breast cancer awareness. There's usually a ribbon with it, and the pink goes along with it. Well, they didn't buy it for breast awareness. They brought it to stencil a message. They had 2 messages, one on the front, one on the back. And on the front, it said professional child kidnappers. And on the back, they said, parents, do you know where your kids are at? And they paraded that around at Costco, Kmart, Walmart, Target, Best Buys, Sears, all the big department stores. Really made the parents feel uncomfortable. They called in, those 8 women social workers were fired. They had 25 years of social work experience, and they were fired, as well as the director of that outfit. They left one individual left to handle the calls of neglect and abuse, the calls of investigation, going out and doing the investigation. Left one individual to protect our children. That is a sad tragedy. So if you think social workers, and if you listen to me, social workers, go look up at 2000 and 2022, and you'll see about the story about the Pink Lady social workers in Prescott, Arizona. So my social worker was bad and evil. She stole our daughter from us. And so I'm telling you a little bit about my story. Many of you that come in this room have already heard it so many times. And um, I just thought I'd share that with you at this particular time. I try to make my room different and change things. I talk about things in different order. And there are 5 rules that I've come up with that I've learned in my CPS. I wish I had followed because I probably would never have lost my children. Now, rule 1 is to get an attorney. And I pretty much should talk to you about a good attorney to get. Now, you're probably going to tell me, oh, I got a court-appointed attorney. Well, the court-appointed attorney is nothing more than a newly trained lawyer that knows about, uh, criminal matters, but does not know about dependency matters or how to deal with juveniles or how to deal with families in dependency law. They just know about criminal law. And they have a caseload of 30 more clients, so they're not going to go fight for your case because it takes time. They don't have time. Social services have them so busy representing all these families. And social services wants you to use a court-appointed attorney because they know they can beat the case and keep your children from you. They're not going to fight or anything else. And then on top of that, the social workers, hold on a second. I'm sorry, people. I'm trying so hard with my family. Our family's not been the same since CPS got involved. My wife and I argue all the time, and it hurts us. It hurts us so bad about what they've done to our daughter and to our sons and their family. Our sons are not 100% okay because CPS demoralizes family. Our sons were taught to, our daughter were taught to put their hands to the side and never hug the parents. They were put in a group home. They were abused. My son was hit in the back of the head. He was punished for not doing communion right, or not doing it right, but he wanted to do it right. He wanted to be a priest, give him communion. And the supervisor said, no, you got to take it in your hand. You can take it from anybody. But he wanted a priest. And because we were taught that the communion is holy and it should be not touched by your hands or a commoner. Only priests should do communion. And today is a very special day. I want to wish you all a happy All Saints Day. It's a day that we worship our loved ones that have died. Not necessarily worship them, but say special prayers, spend an outing. There's a lot of people at the cemetery that were having special prayers and singing songs about their loved one that they lost. I know they talk about it's honoring the living dead, and there's a lot that is talked about that. But today, I want to, say God bless to all your loved ones. I know you lost one. Some of you may have lost children along the way, and that can be awful sad too. But going back to that court-appointed attorney, if your children have a court-appointed attorney, your husband and wife each have one, then social services will run all over you because they won't fight. Ours didn't. They were a mess. And the whole case was a mess. We did everything stupid, everything wrong. The things I learned now, I wish it. There was no real allegation against us. They were trying to get an allegation of neglect because we had my dad's and mom's personal belongings of 55 years from their 4,000 square foot home in her living room, stacked on boxes and furniture, and we wanted to give them to family and friends. And unfortunately, they said that's going to endanger the kids, even though they had their own rooms organized and clean. My son had his own room, And my daughter and young son, had a room, and they had a bathroom with double sinks, and the house was a beautiful house. I still miss that house. I'd worked 45 years for the house, and um, I lost it. I lost my credit. I lost my family was torn apart. Our family still, I don't know. I tried to see how I can redo my family and get my family back together. That's something that you should learn, um, that is importance of family. Never get mad or angry. Never go to bed angry at your spouse or your children. You should always love them because you never know when they might be gone. You never know. And right now, I regret that our 12-year-old daughter isn't joining us for Thanksgiving or anything else. She's been gone since 12, and that's 10 years we've been without her. 10 years without her. And she being 22, we don't know so many things she's doing, what she's dating, if she's finishing college, does she have a job or where she works. We hear bits and pieces, but not very much. And the rest of our children are older children. We need to get in touch with them. We don't know our oldest son, how he's doing. He's a good boy. He's a JAG in the Air Force. He's married. He has two children. And so we have grandchildren. And he was born out of rape. And people right now with abortions, you know, that shows you right there. If he was aborted, then maybe all the good things he'd done would never have happened. But he turned out okay. My wife gave him up for adoption. He came back to us at age 20 and wanted to have a relationship with his mother. And I met him, and he's a fine man, and so forth there. Our oldest daughter, we hear right now what she's doing, but ever since age 25, she moved out and just been staying away from us because we've been involved in CPS. The child protection system seems to be a stigma. If you mention CPS, some people turn the other way. Some people look down on you. It's not. The child protection system is run right and done right. They would help the parents with programs and with parenting classes, which they do have. But if you complete those things, they still make you do more. And they have therapists. They have so many people that hurt and destroy your family. So you got to be really careful about them. And so you got to have that real bona fide attorney. So Vincent Davis is a really good one. But make sure any attorney you hire that knows about dependency and juvenile law and has won cases against CPS. Furthermore, ask them a real important question. Have you ever done a civil suit and won against CPS? If the answer is yes, then right there you got the kind of attorney you want. Too many attorneys will not fight CPS. It's too hard to fight them. They got so much money, they're so corrupt. So I'm telling you, is that you need to really get an attorney. That's my rule number one. The rule number two is having a notebook. Organize with all your information, your paperwork. You stuff the notebook, 3-ring binder with notebook paper, college rules, great. And you have some subject dividers, you divide it. And one of the most important documents that you should prepare from the start is called the incident log timeline. It's a timeline of events. Anytime you talk to someone, you write down the name, the date, the people involved, the location. The second line, you write down what the incident was about, and the third line, the outcome. And you skip a couple lines, repeat it, and so forth. Because as you go through your case, which will be anywhere from 3 to 4 years to 5 years to 10 years, it can go a long time. You won't remember 6 months or a year from now what you said or did. So anytime you have an incident, not only with the child protection system, the social workers, but with the police, with the school, with your family, your friends, neighbor, anytime you have an incident, you log it in. That way you have a timeline of everything that happens. And 6 months from now, you can look at it. Other documents would be your court papers to put in, then your certificates from your parenting classes, your certificates from your program, like anger management or your drug rehab or, those kinds of things. You need to put all your copies of your drug reports. You're required to take a drug test. And then you want to put um, anything else that you may have, like all your information, which you find, the websites, the phone numbers, the places you get there. So anyway, that notebook is a source of information that will help you in the long run. Rule number 3 is, as I said earlier, you do not talk to social workers or the police. You don't invite them in your home. You don't give up your children. There's only 3 ways they can enter your home. 1, you give them permission, or another family member gives them permission. 2, there is extreme danger or violence happening to a child. They'll have to break in and stop it. Maybe 2 people are fighting with knives or guns, and a child's caught between them. Or maybe the child is being picked up and slammed against the wall, or their head is being shaken too hard, things like that. The police and social workers will enter the home. The 3rd way, there's only 3 ways, is a warrant. Now, a warrant is a legal document that's issued by a judge, signed by a judge, with his signature hand stamped by the court clerk. So it's raised so no one can forge it. It should be on regular paper, not a PDF file or a Xerox copy or on your computer or something like that. And it's got to have the person is addressed to the people that are accused, whether it's the husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, where it is, the children's name, the allegations, neglect or abuse, and so forth, the address of the place, Further, it's supposed to say specifically what date and time they can come to your home, inspect your home. There got to be directions, what they can do. Take your child, inspect your home, whatever it is. Other than that, you don't have to talk to them. And one way to do is if you're outside, you're not in the house. By the way, when you're in the house, don't answer the door. You don't know who it is, and they'll leave a message for you to follow up later. But what you can do if you meet them is you can sit there and tell them, time out. I need my attorney present. It's my constitutional rights that all legal proceedings, and since this is an accusation, it's a legal matter, I want my attorney present. And all I need to know is your name and a contact number, and then we can have a meeting. Try to have that meeting at Starbucks and McDonald's. Don't have it at your home or at their office. You don't need that. You don't need that. And you don't need to talk to them much. You don't really need to talk to them that much. Then there's also that medical trafficking. You got to be very careful about medical trafficking. And that's where you bring your child into urgent care or emergency because they have a high temperature, or they have injured themselves, or they're sick, or whatever the case may be. There are social workers from the child protection system that work in urgent care or work in an emergency room, and they will take your children. It's so bad how they do that. They listen in, they hear a doctor maybe say that the bruises could be something else. They're going to do that. They're going to take your child. You tell them no. Unless they have a warrant, they can't take your child. They cannot take your child. They're going to be a police, and they're going to try to muscle in. The police are the worst culprit because they don't know the law, and they'll try to muscle their way in. And then on top of that, if you're having a child and you're having your birthing room, don't let them come to your birth room and take your child, especially if it's still attached to the umbilical cord. That was gross when I heard one social worker and police rushed in and took the baby still attached to the mother. That's wrong. You tell the doctor, the nurses, they're not invited. So you got to be wary about medical trafficking. Not only is there child trafficking, there's medical trafficking. So that's what I want to tell you in rule number 3. Now, rule 4 is an easy one. You do research on your CPS case, but it's very important the way you make your words. You want to start off with the city. And if it's a small city, you want to put that city and the big city next to it. So, for instance, if you're in Athens, Georgia, you may want to say Athens and Atlanta, Georgia. Then right after the state, you put the letters CPS. That way, the search index is focusing on CPS. And then you write what you want in CPS. Like you could say what the 388 motion is, or um, what is the ICWA 1978 Act, the Indian Child Welfare Act, or how do I file a complaint locally, or how do I file a complaint with the state, or how do I file a complaint with the federal government? There's lots of ways you can do that. So do a research, spend 60 hours researching it. And then lastly, you want to create a medical record of all your documents. You want to have an envelope that has your driver's license, your kids' birth certificates, your social security cards, your birth certificates. You can be copies, by the way, but you want to have those records, the shot cards, the medical cards, any medical history, not only you, but your kids and so forth. Their grade reports. So you stuff this envelope full of reports because you need to show them later on. And they will try to take your child and issue if you don't have those documents. A lot of people leave the room and forget their birth certificate or the social security card. And then CPS will create one for you and put the foster parents in the name there. It's so corrupt what CPS does. I cannot emphasize it enough. So those are my 5 rules. And furthermore, CPS is like open heart surgery. And you say, what's the comparison? They are so complex, so much full of lies. They're not transparent, and they will alienate and traffic your child into foster care. It is sad what they do. So it's very important that you try to, keep ahead of them and get an attorney, because it is a very corrupt system that you have to go through and fight. So I'm down to my time now. I've gone a good hour. I'm not sure if there'll be a message at the conclusion of my show, because we're trying to do next Saturday's show, but maybe I can't do it right now. So anyway, next Saturday at 10 o'clock is a showtime for Vincent Davis. And I want to thank you all for listening and taking the time to be in this podcast. God bless you all, and I'll see you tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. Remember, it's 8 o'clock. It's Sunday. So I see you in the morning at 8 o'clock in the morning. God bless you all, and keep fighting for your kids. This is Bob Pace signing off.